See, in my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again. The truth to sink in. The kind of catapult of propaganda. This is a quote by George Bush when talking about the war in Iraq. Hi, I'm Oscar Gruber, and I did my literary review on propaganda to understand how propaganda through the use of media influences the initiation of war. This paper seeks to answer to what extent propaganda plays a role in our everyday lives, from the decisions we make to the beliefs we hold. Also, I attempt to answer the question whether we are at war with Iraq because of misinformation and agenda-based propaganda. Propaganda is the dissemination of information aimed at influencing the opinions or behaviors of people, as opposed to impartially providing information. Propaganda, in its most basic sense, often presents information primarily in order to influence its audience. These messages present only one side of an argument and is often repeated continuously through these various media outlets. Even without knowing this, all people have to do with propaganda in ordinary life. It happens through advertising. Propaganda occurs in political speeches, in TV shows, even in the news. There are different forms and methods of propaganda, the most powerful being visual. Propaganda has long been used by governments during war times to do two things: to persuade the populace of the justness of their cause, as well as to hide the failures in the front line. Propaganda is necessary during war times for moral justification, and also to show soldiers that the nation is appreciating their sacrifice. Propaganda has been said to be as effective as bombs in war times. Unfortunately, misinformation as well as disinformation have been widely used to distract people from the truth. This is because propaganda often presents facts selectively to produce an emotional response rather than a rational response to the information being presented. Propaganda is one of the most powerful instruments in politics, and it is often used to form public opinion. The main idea of propaganda is to actively influence people's opinion and social mood. World War I was the first large-scale use of propaganda. During this time, large-scale campaigns were launched to sell war bonds and to promote support among American citizens. During this time, there were many instances of American news agencies reporting on atrocities that never occurred. During World War II, the Nazi Germany used an incredibly effective propaganda campaign in an attempt to spread ideas of ethnic superiority and to justify the genocide of its own people. The Nazi government effectively communicated through art, music, theater, films, books, radio, educational materials, and the press. Films in particular played an important role in disseminating racial anti-Semitism, as the Nazi government controlled film production. Newspapers in Germany printed cartoons that used anti-Semitic caricatures to depict Jews. Radios were practically given out to broaden the number of people listening to the anti-Semitic messages over the air. In order to completely control the information being received by the citizens of Nazi Germany, a form of censorship was used. Nazi propaganda was so effective that by the end of the campaign, the majority of Germans agreed to the mass extermination of European Jews. America also had a highly effective propaganda campaign going during World War II. Many propaganda posters were created during this time that encouraged support for the war. In fact, this was the primary vehicle for these messages during World War II. An example of this is the famous Uncle Sam, I Want You posters. These posters provoked a strong emotional response that rallied citizens to the cause. The main objective of the campaign during World War II was to remove the commonly held view that the German people and the Nazi Party were separate entities. During the Cold War, the U.S. government produced vast amounts of propaganda due to a widely held fear of communism. Radio broadcasting was the most widely used media at this time and was used heavily for propagandistic purposes. These campaigns spread false news and information targeting communist groups. Propaganda campaigns are still being used today in America due to its overwhelming success. In America, public opinion plays an important role in controlling the direction and policy of the nation. It's no wonder propaganda is most widely used and effective here. Propaganda in the United States It spread through the use of TV, radio, the press, as well as bumper stickers and posters. Unfortunately, disinformation is still being perpetuated to this day through the use of propaganda. Many news agencies have been accused of spreading propaganda on behalf of special interest groups. According to the propaganda model of Edward Herman and Noam Chomsky, privately owned news media promote the economic and political interests of the large companies that own and operate them. Propaganda is being used to influence the invasion of other nations by America. There's been a lot of controversy over the last couple of years about the invasion of Iraq following 9/11. 80% of Americans think Iraq has a nuclear weapons program, despite the fact that the consensus among the intelligence community agrees that Iraq has no nuclear weapons program or the intent on starting one in the future. The reason why American citizens believe this is due to the monumental success of war propaganda. Allegedly, a misinformation campaign was created to sell the war in Iraq to the American people. The public has been under the belief that Iraq possesses nuclear weapons despite evidence of the contrary. According to John Glacier, this campaign relied on repeating themes rather than facts. Allegedly, the widely held belief that Iran or Iraq possesses nuclear weapons and the intent to use them has been formed by the repetition of phrases such as war on terror, Iraq, 9/11, and other phrases in media reports. The terrorist attack on the World Trade Center was played and replayed to instill a deep emotional response against the perceived enemy. This propaganda campaign was so effective that by the peak of the war, the majority of Americans believed that Saddam Hussein was not only allied with Al-Qaeda, but also had been directly involved with the 9/11 attacks. This belief was widely held, despite the lack of evidence. Unlike the campaign claiming Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, the U.S. had no historical basis for believing that such an alliance existed and contradicted evidence by the U.S. intelligence community. In conclusion, it is clear that propaganda has been incredibly successful in manipulating and controlling the political opinions of citizens all around the world in the past and today. Thank you.